She froze as she heard the sound of people downstairs.
What is that?
That is Mallory, and the guy's doing a favor for me in the current master suite. Don't worry, it's a surprise. The best part of having my cousin as a best friend, like Joaquim and Mallory, is they want me to get the girl. My family loves you, Liesel. They absolutely adore you. Joaquim actually whittled down his harem and said he might be ready to find Mrs. Right instead of Ms. Right now if there are girls like you out there. Janka is desperate to find a guy. We should set them up. She turned her head on his shoulder to look up at him with wide eyes. He'd eat her alive. Don't kid yourself, this is the girl who Friday night slept with a guy just for the opportunity to sleep in a bed instead of her mattress in her loft. She did not. She told me she had to masturbate. The sex was so bad, and the guy wasn't even offended, but all she wanted was a good night's sleep. He threw his head back and laughed in the way Liesel loved so much, full-bodied and loudly. It reverberated off the walls. I will invite him up to see the house and we can introduce them, and they can take it from there. He kissed her temple. I can't wait to tell him about the baby. He's going to be stoked. Thought my mom may have already bragged. I love you. She turned in his arms and placed her palms against his chest, feeling the steady thrumming of his heartbeat beneath her hand. I love how much you love me and want to be with me. I love how readily you are acclimating to having a child with me, even though we've only known each other a few months. A few of the best months of my life. He stared down at her, his dark eyes full of emotion. Liesel, I am beyond excited about having a baby with you. I knew when I was away, I was ready to slow down at work to be home more, but finding the pregnancy test in the bin immediately solidified my plans. I know I had the goofiest grin on my face, because Mallory met me at the bottom of the gate when I was leaving. And he asked me why I was smiling, like I just caught you doing something naughty. I told him I was going to be a dad. I told him to protect you with his life, keep his lips shut, and I would need his help to get things moving. He said. It explained my stupid face. She giggled as she slid her hands up to his hair and buried her fingers in his thick locks. I love you. Couldn't keep quiet for 10 seconds. I was really worried you would be upset with me. Janka was the one who guessed I was pregnant. My latte smelled and tasted funny, and she said it was fine. He laughed. You know, I realized a while back you aren't good with your pills. I didn't care. Really, it never dawned on me until Janka pointed out the reason I never got pregnant before had nothing to do with my birth control pills and how I took them sporadically, and everything to do with the fact Merlin was obsessed with condom use. I was hoping you'd get knocked up so you couldn't leave me. He laughed as she stared at him incredulously. Don't believe me? Ask Enid. I told her the day after the gala when she called me for dinner. I was laughing, saying you had taken a long shower, had food, painted a bit, and still hadn't taken your pill. She accused me of trying to trap you by not reminding you. I said you were a grown woman who insisted the pills worked, so who was I to argue? She smacked his shoulder. You knew they would fail? No, but I hoped. Liesel, you are everything I have waited my whole life to have. Your spirit and joy make me feel for the first time in a long time there is more to life than earning money or pandering to other rich people's whims. I love working hard, but more than I ever did anything else, I love loving you. Being with you and seeing the world through your eyes is refreshing. That's bringing my own creative side back out. I started sketching architecture again. I'm designing houses again. I want to craft and build things. On the plane back from Texas this afternoon, I sketched out a giant farm table and bench seating for our dining room, big enough for the entire family to come for Christmas dinner. I'm going to design a workshop and build it near your studio. I can build the frames for your paintings. I'll build our furniture. I want to build the baby's crib. You inspire me, Liesel, and this feeling. He tapped his chest, is not anything I have felt in a very long time. You bring this out in me. I love you for this. He looked down at her. Well, this and your amazing rack. She wiped tears off her cheeks as she snickered at his words. I do have a great rack. Yes, and ass, but the rack is something else. He kissed her forehead. Come on, I want to show you what I intend to do with the current master suite. Who owned this place? I mean, it's huge, but it still has a farmhouse feel to it, like it's Gone with the Wind huge, but Wizard of Oz farm feel. He laughed at her analogy. You're not wrong. The fella who owned this was a local politician. He was a lawyer first and then became a judge before becoming a politician. His wife was from Louisiana and had grown up on a farm. She hated city life. This was their compromise. They raised 5 boys here. Ugh, 5 boys? She shuddered. Can you imagine? I'd prefer 5 girls. What if they fight like me and Sandy? My mother's rolling pin will be around, he said dryly as he led her back down the stairs. I come from an immigrant family, Liesel. Spankings exist. You're not spanking our children. Nope, not me. Their grandmother will threaten them with the rolling pin. All they'll need to see is her hit me with it once and then threaten them with it for the rest of their lives. She still hits me, you know. Liesel laughed at his joking and followed him to the other end of the house. This is a 5th bedroom. He motioned to a closed door, similar to the other 5, but it only has a shower, no tub, not really great for kids, so it can be either Janka or Elsie's room. He pushed open a big door. This room, I want to split into 2 rooms with a shared bathroom, but for tonight, it's our playroom. She entered the room and froze at the sight in front of her. What is this? This is me making up for being late the other night. I thought we could decorate a canvas and use it as a headboard in the bedroom upstairs. Inspiration for the next 50 years. I plan to live a long time. She stared at the huge canvas spread all over the floor and the paint cans and brushes the guys must have brought from the other house. Candles were lit and set on windowsills. She moved further into the room, leaving him standing at the doorway. Brushes, towels, robes and even slippers were set on a small stool to the side of the room. Mallory made me pay him double time to set up my sex scene. She giggled at his words, and she looked over her shoulder, her breath catching at the sight of him. He was down on his knees, a black velvet box in his hand. But he then waived all fees when I told him I was going to use this as my proposal scene and not just a fuck fest. Isaias. She whimpered as her hands flew to her mouth as she completely turned to face him. I love you, Liesel Wilson. I love your beautiful soul and your zest for life. I love how when life gave you a shit hand, you dove in headfirst and made life your bitch. You took revenge on the past in the best way possible by creating your own perfect future. I want desperately to be forever part of your perfect future. Will you marry me? She fell on her knees in front of him and couldn't help but smile as his own fingers shook, putting the ring on her hand. Yes, I'll marry you. I love you. You know what I want now? He asked as he gently kissed her lips. What? To see you wearing nothing but that ring. She laughed at his bold words and the fire in his eyes. It can be arranged. I do also have a picnic basket. He motioned to the side of the room. Bread and cheese and meat, but not deli meat because you're not supposed to have it according to my mother. Mom cooked a turkey for her and Dad today, so she gave me a container full. He smiled at her grin. I brought non-alcoholic wine too. You can have real wine. I know how much you love wine. She frowned at his words. I do, but I love you more. And if you have to make sacrifices to bring our child into this world, then I will make as many of them as I possibly can with you. I might not be able to push a watermelon out my lower half, but I can give up alcohol for the next 9 months in solidarity. She laughed. We're going to be grumpy. Nah, we'll subsidize with fucking. I'll get drunk on the flavor of you. Fool, she laughed and shoved his chest, rising to her feet. In one deft move she ripped her shirt over her head and tossed it aside. She then kicked her jeans off and lifted her foot so he could help remove her sock. She gripped his shoulder for balance when he grabbed her foot and kissed her toes. He ran his hands up her calf and then her thigh. You are so beautiful. His palm stroked her hip and then moved to her tummy. He leaned closer. I know you can't hear me yet, little one. Or maybe you can, but you should know you have the most incredible mommy in the world, and I am going to love you both so much for the rest of your lives. Now, I want you to be a good little fetus and plug your ears and keep your eyes closed because I'm going to do things to your mom I will never approve of you doing when you're older. Liesel squealed with laughter as he rose from his knees and scooped her up in his arms and carried her to the center of the canvas. I'm the artist. I want to paint you. Clothes off, she waved her hands at him as he set her down. She watched excitedly as he removed his t-shirt and kicked off his jeans the way she had her own moments ago. When he was standing there naked, she walked around him, her forefinger and thumb curved around her jaw as she pensively examined him. You know how you keep saying you want to carve me on stone? I'm about to turn into a statue if you don't make a move soon, sweetheart, he teased her. In fact, part of me is already starting to solidify from you walking around me in your lacy thong panties and bra. She smacked his backside and lunged away as he reached for her in response to her spanking him. She wagged her finger at him. You're making this up to me, right? My game, my rules, you have to stand still while I paint you. He frowned. This doesn't sound sexy. Then, when you're coated in paint, we're going to have copious amounts of sex and the transfer of the paint from your body to mine and to the canvas will be our art. Oh yes, please. He clapped his hands excitedly. Get to it then, paint me up. She looked at him as he stroked his cock and shook her head. There was nothing shy about this man, and she reveled in his bold, brash behavior. I think I want the blues and greens, and maybe some purples, and a hint of teal. She playfully bent over, lifting her ass high in the air and enjoying the sharp inhalation as she flashed her goods in his direction, his low primal growl as she lifted a hand and unclipped her bra and let her breasts sway while she dug through the box of paints made her shiver with delight. She grabbed the indigo paint and a fine brush and dipped it in and turned back to him to trace his ridged muscles with the point of the brush. He jerked and twisted. "It tickles." She laughed at him. Sometimes art is pain. "My erection being ignored is painful." He licked his lips, looking at her nipples. "I want to taste." "No," she laughed at his pout as she dipped the brush. "Be a good little subject and let me paint you." "Fine, but when you have me covered in paint, I want your palms painted." "My palms?" "Yes, I want to paint your hands because I want to see them on the canvas." "I want them flat on the canvas while I rail you from behind." Her paintbrush faltered at his words. "I want the canvas crushed up in your hands, twisting and turning the tarp as you orgasm the way you grip our sheets at home when I'm pounding into you when you're on your back." Her breath was catching with every hot, low-spoken word. "I want your fingerprints on the fabric. From when you're riding me, and you lean forward on your hands, and you're holding yourself up with just your fingertips. I'll be lifting my cock up into you, thrusting with all my might to make you shatter like glass on my dick. Then when I'm done fucking you, I'm going to make love to you slowly and give you one last orgasm, and you're going to do the thing you do where you reach over your head, and I'm going to hold your hands there, and both of our hands will be at the top of this canvas, held together while I fill you with my cum. I'm going to come so deep and so hard inside your beautiful body that if you weren't already carrying my baby, you'd be pregnant by dawn." Her hands were shaking now with a need for him to do everything he said he was going to do. "I want you, Liesel. I want to feel your skin under my skin. I want to feel your breath on my mouth. I want your tight little cunt, squeezing every drop out of my very massive cock while you shake, shudder and moan under me. I'm going to love you, sweetheart, until your legs don't function and I have to carry you home tonight and put you to bed, and then we'll do it all again." Her breath was catching in her throat, her chest rising and falling. "I bet if I touched your sweet pussy right now." "Parted your legs, you're soaked, aren't you, babe?" He bent his head and whispered in her ear as she tried to focus on painting his skin. "Fuck it," she whispered and tilted the jar over his chest. She raced back to the box and grabbed as many containers as she could get, opened them all and began pouring them over his body. She smacked her hands against his chest and rubbed the paints in a galaxy of colors over his entire body. When she knelt to do his legs, she paused to run her tongue up his very erect shaft, causing him to curse and shove her backwards. She never did finish painting his entire body as he covered her with himself, but the canvas and the art spoke for itself. Hours later, after Isaias had fulfilled every one of his filthy promises, Liesel considered she had never done such an inspired project in her life. Liesel, Jenka and Elsie were laying on the floor of the barn, which Isaias had said would be her new studio, staring up at the rafters, giggling like teenagers. "I can't believe it." "You should see him," she laughed. "He's not only stained with the paint, but the rash is something else." "No." Elsie gripped her sides. "We were starting to clean up, and I noticed he was shifting a lot, and I asked what was wrong, and he made a face that he said he didn't want to seem like a party pooper, but thought maybe he should take a shower. As he rinsed off, I could see the raised red welts on his skin. I can't believe you had to go to the emergency room." Jenka barely got the words out as she dissolved into a fit of giggles. "The only part we didn't paint on him was his dick, so it's the only part not affected." She knew she should feel bad, but was struggling as she considered the way Isaias had behaved once the heat of their passion had simmered down. The doctor in the emergency room said he was likely allergic to an additive in the paint. "Paint got into the crack of his ass." She started laughing in earnest now. "I tried not to laugh at him when he was writhing on the examining room table, but it was hard. They gave him antihistamines and painkillers to help with the burning sensation." The girls all rolled into a ball in each other's arms, laughing like fiends, when they heard Isaias growling behind them. "I know you are laughing at me." "Never," Elsie croaked out as they all took a breath and then began wailing again. "Laugh it up, ladies." Isaias said as he walked further into the barn, but I'll have you all know I'm still happy with the end result. Our painting is a masterpiece, and I'm glad to have suffered for our art. The multiple orgasms didn't hurt either. Also, he pointed at Liesel, have to apply my allergy cream everywhere. Hey! Liesel sat up and glared at him. Don't tell them I gave you multiples, they'll want to try for themselves. He grinned at her, his face still stained with streaks of blue and green paint. Nope, unlike your ex. Fucking your sisters isn't my thing. How does a guy have multiples? Janka questioned. Easy. A voice called out from behind Isaias. He gets hard, he blows his load, he gets hard again and blows his load, and this cycle continues so long as there is a warm willing body, or until he blows a dry load, then it's not as fun. Janka sat up and looked at the blonde approaching behind Isaias. Who are you and what makes you an expert? More importantly, what is a dry load? Elsie chimed in. Ladies, this is my cousin Joachim, this is Janka and Elsie. Do not ask him about things he feels, can only be explained via demonstration. He gave a shudder. Joachim! Liesel was pushing off the floor and racing to him to be swept up into a big hug. How are you? Great, disappointed you didn't leave Isaias to come join my harem, but since you are family now, you're forgiven. She giggled and kissed his cheek. I didn't know you were coming. Neither did I, Isaias said, yanking her out of Joachim's arms. Asshole showed up after Enia gave him directions when he arrived at Mom's house. The entire family are descending like flies since I said I sold the business. They all have projects they want me to take on. Ladies, Joachim walked up to the girls who were now standing. Please tell me Isaias isn't creating his own little harem and you're free to be with me. You're disgusting, Elsie said with a sneer. Polly isn't my vibe. I sleep with men for the soft mattress. Janka looked him up and down. Your bed is in another state, so you have no value to me. You don't have a bed? She lives in a loft and her bedroom is barely crawling room, Liesel grinned. No room to do much of anything but sleep, she sighed dramatically. Thank God for hookup apps so I can get a decent night's sleep here and there. Liesel was trying not to burst into laughter as her words clearly had Joachim confused. You have sex, so you have a place to sleep? Yes, preferably after a decent meal. Most of my cash gets sunk into my business. A meal and a good night's sleep is incentive to put up with micro dicks and quick draw McGraws. He tilted his head to one side, looked her up and down and grinned broadly. I'm staying in a hotel suite with a king-sized bed. I'll order room service, feed you, give you far better than a micro dick. We'll both have multiples and I'll let you sleep in until noon tomorrow. What's in it for you? Janka matched his head tilt. I rarely go more than 24 hours without getting laid. I'm at 19 and it was a quickie in the limo on the way to the airport. I've been at my uncle's house since last night. I wanted to come and find my cousin, but was told he was proposing. I need to get laid, you need a good night's sleep. I asked at a date? How much better than a micro dick? No! Liesel screeched. I do not want specific details. Do not. If you need to see for yourself, take him to one of the outbuildings further away from the house. There's a potting shed near a greenhouse at the back of the property. Her voice faded away as Joachim grabbed Janka by the wrist and pulled her out of the barn. That went way faster than I thought it was going to, Isaias said with a disgusted look on his face. How the hell does he do it? It's not only me who finds what happened in 3 minutes oddly horrifying and disturbing, right? Elsie shook her head. Liesel is the passionate one, I'm the nerdy one, Janka is the primal one. Janka has zero fucks to give ever. She appreciates bluntness. He read the room and read it well, good for him. She grinned at Isaias. Get used to it. She's never going to change. It is why Merlin hated her. She never fit the aesthetic he wanted for Liesel. Fuck him, Isaias said with a laugh. My lawyer will be here in a few minutes. Liesel, he wants to go over the prenup. Sounds good. She smiled at him. I don't know why you're insisting on one, he frowned at her. We're never getting divorced. No, but 20 years from now you could get tired of me laughing at your rashes when I paint you, and I want our kids provided for. He laughed and lifted her up, throwing her over his shoulder and smacking her on the backside. Never going to happen, but I'll humor you, Elsie. We need your legal hat. Come meet in person the lawyer you've been bickering with for the last couple of months. Liesel grinned at Elsie as she hung over Isaias' back. Elsie was dragging her heels. She never had been good at meeting men who flirted with her, and Isaias' lawyer Truman Nithin had been flirting with Elsie since the day she told him to fuck off in Latin. As Isaias carried her through the yard where people were milling about, she grinned that he had immediately jumped in with both feet and had a crew on site to begin the cleanup of the property and to start going through the demolition process so he could begin the work on restoration. There were easily 100 people on the property at the moment, including his parents and Fred, who was thrilled to be asked to do the interior design. He paused and set her on her feet and motioned to a person. That's what I wanted, Liesel. His voice was thick with emotion. I want the sound all the time. She looked to see Winnie had found an old tire swing hanging from a big tree at the side of the house, and she was laughing loudly as Meredith and Lorraine were taking turns pushing her and twirling the tire. Elsie passed by whispering in her ear, "He's a keeper, girl, you don't need this prenup." Liesel wrapped her arms around Isaias and hugged him tight as she watched her niece playing gleefully in the yard. This was definitely home.